Anyone can make a video about the closest matchups in Super Bowl history, right? The Giants beat the Bills by a single point in Super Bowl 25, and exactly 9 other games have been decided by 3 points. That's it, there's your top 10. Thank you so much for watching, and okay, yeah, we're more sophisticated than that. We're here to count down the closest matchups in Super Bowl history based on team quality, as determined by C-Score. This channel's metric for analyzing and evaluating every single team from every single season of the Super Bowl era. As usual, a deeper explanation of this metric is in the description below. It's pretty simple. One team has a 25 C-score, another has a 23, then the difference is 2. One team scores a 40 and the other scores a 32, the difference is 8. The closer the difference between C-scores, the closer the matchup. Bada bing, bada boom. Let us now count down the 10 closest matchups in Super Bowl history. Naturally, we start off at number 10 in a Super Bowl many may not expect to be on here. Super Bowl 41 between the 12-4 AFC champion Indianapolis Colts and the 13-3 NFC champion Chicago Bears. The Bears were actually the higher rated team in C-score by a margin of 3.742. The Colts were the 3 seed and had to play in the wild card round and win 3 games to make the Super Bowl. The Bears weren't highly thought of, but were the 1 seed and won both of their games at home to match up with Indy in the big game. Despite the C-score difference in Chicago's favor, the perception of these two teams made the Colts 7-point favorites, and the odds makers got that right, with the Colts winning 29-17. While these two teams' C-score difference is 10th highest, their city's physical distance is just barely the closest between two Super Bowl competitors. Coming in at number 9 is the matchup between the 12-2 AFC champion Denver Broncos and the also 12-2 NFC champion Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl 12. The Cowboys outpaced the Broncos in C-score by a margin of 3.297. The Broncos, in their first ever playoff appearance after 18 seasons of existence, were good enough to nab the number 1 seed, winning both of their playoff games at home to make a surprise appearance in the Super Bowl. Perennial contenders, the Cowboys were no surprise, also attaining the number 1 seed and winning both of their home games on the road to their 4th Super Bowl appearance in 8 seasons. Perception may have once again played a part in the Cowboys being installed as a 6-point favorite, but a dominant performance by the Doomsday defense ruled the day, forcing 8 turnovers in a 27-10 drubbing. This was the first of the Broncos' record 5 Super Bowl losses, but it was also the closest game of the bunch. At number 8, we have 2 teams that pulled off overtime upsets on the road to reach Super Bowl 53, the 11-5 AFC champion New England Patriots and the 13-3 NFC champion Los Angeles Rams, the second Super Bowl matchup between these 2 teams. Despite the 2 extra wins, the Rams C-score only cleared the Patriots by 3.124. At only 11-5, the Patriots still secured a number 2 seed and got a bye into the divisional round, the exact scenario by which they advanced to the Super Bowl the other time they played the Rams. LA was also the number 2 seed and needed only 2 wins to make it to the big game. The Patriots were only slight favorites in this one, giving away 2 points, and their defense barely allowed that many the entire game, winning the lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time. It helps having Bill Belichick to lead the way against an offense that scored 11 times as many points per game during the regular season. Our next matchup at number 7 takes place between the 13-1 AFC champion Oakland Raiders and the 11-2-1 NFC champion Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl 11. We get our first sub-3 difference in C-score, with the Raiders only outpacing the Vikings by 2.374. Oakland grabbed the 1 seed but had to mow through significant competition, including the 2-time reigning champion Steelers, to make it here, while the Vikings were also the number 1 seed and overcame a couple of excellent teams to give us this matchup of teams looking to finally break through and win it all. The odds makers also agreed that this would be a closely fought game, making Oakland a slight 4-point favorite, but the Vikings continued their unfortunate tradition of failing to score in the first half of a Super Bowl, and the Raiders wound up running away with this one 32-14, ending years of frustration and finally hoisting their first Lombardi. Only slightly ahead of our last matchup at number 6 comes from the 12-4 AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals and the 10-6 NFC champion San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 23, their second Super Bowl matchup of the 1980s. The Niners actually pull slightly ahead of the Bengals in C-score by 2.212. The Bengals rose from last place the season before to the number 1 seed this season, taking down both of their opponents en route to the big game, while the 49ers at 1.6-5 climbed up to the number 2 seed and won the NFC Championship game on the road in Chicago. Perception definitely played a part in the 49ers being around a touchdown favorite in this one, because on paper and indeed on the field, these two teams were much more evenly matched. And it came to pass that the Bengals held the lead in the fourth quarter and only relinquished it on John Taylor's touchdown catch with 34 seconds left in the game. The smart money had the Bengals in this one, and those tickets cashed, with the 49ers winning 20-16 but failing to cover the spread. We're halfway through the list now, and at number 5 we have the 7-2 AFC champion Miami Dolphins in their matchup with the 8-1 NFC champion Washington Redskins in Super Bowl 17. Yes, this was the 1982 strike-shortened season where only 9 regular season games were played. In this limited season, Washington had a 2.151 edge in C-score over the Dolphins. The playoff setup this season saw 8 teams making it from each conference, requiring 3 wins to make it to the Super Bowl. The Dolphins were the number 2 seed and the Redskins were the number 1 seed, but both teams got all home games on their path. The Dolphins were actually favored by a field goal in this one, the second time we've seen on this countdown that the spread didn't jive with C-score, and Miami did lead 17-13 in the fourth quarter. John Riggins then scored that touchdown, and the Redskins pulled away to win 27-17, lining up more with C-score than it did with the oddsmakers. At number 4, we have a matchup we've already referenced between the 12-4 AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals and the 13-3 NFC champion San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 16, 7 seasons before their rematch that we covered at the number 6 spot. We dropped below the 2-point threshold in C-score difference, as the 49ers were only 1.884 ahead of the Bengals for this matchup. Both teams rose from a 6-10 season in 1980 to the number 1 seed in their conference this season, and both made it to the Super Bowl after winning all their playoff games at home. The close nature of their C-scores was reflected in the point spread, as the 49ers were only favored by a single point. And while the Niners won a seemingly close game by a score of 26-21, they led the whole way, and at one point were up 20-0, with the Bengals scoring very late in the game to close what was a 12-point margin. With this 49er victory, a dynasty was born. We jump back into the 21st century at our number 3 spot, where we see the 11-5 AFC champion Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the 13-3 NFC champion Seattle Seahawks in Super Bowl 40, Seattle's first ever appearance in the big game. The Seahawks rated out only slightly better than the Steelers here, by a C-score of 1.741. That difference belies the difference between how these teams got here. Pittsburgh was a wildcard entrant and the number 6 seed, needing to win 3 road games in the playoffs, while the Seahawks were the top seed and mostly cruised at home in their playoff run. Yet, the Steelers entered the game as 4-point favorites, and mostly justified that by winning the game 21-10, although they did so under a fairly significant cloud of controversy, as this game's officiating has gotten lots of attention from the moment it was played to the current day. The Steelers got one for the thumb, and the Seahawks were left to wonder about what could have been. Silver medal time, our number 2 entry in this countdown, is also our most recent, the matchup between the 12-4 AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs and the 13-3 NFC champion San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 54. The 49ers edged out ahead of Kansas City in C-score by a mere 1.222 points. The Chiefs were the AFC's 2 seed this season, but after the 1-seeded Ravens were eliminated, they got both their playoff games at home, overcoming double-digit deficits in both. The 49ers were the 1 seed and steamrolled their way into the Super Bowl. Another very close call on the point spread, as the Chiefs were given the 1.5 point edge, but that was looking ill-fated until the fourth quarter when they were once again down double digits, but once again they overcame and won with a final score of 31-20, their first post-merger Super Bowl win in what turned out to be the first of 3 championships in a 5-year span. But topping this list is a matchup whose C-score difference will be quite difficult to overcome. In one corner are the 14-2 AFC champion Pittsburgh Steelers, and in the other corner we have the 12-4 NFC champion Dallas Cowboys playing it out for Super Bowl 13. Dallas rated out higher by a measly 0.368 points. The Steelers are the number 1 seed and had little trouble brushing away their opponents to qualify for this game, whereas the Cowboys were the number 2 seed and had to win the NFC Championship game on the road, which they also did with ease. Pittsburgh defeated Dallas in Super Bowl X just 3 seasons earlier, and perhaps that played a part in their being a 3.5 point favorite in this game. Whoever won Super Bowl 13 would be the first franchise with 3 Lombardis in their trophy case, and after withstanding a late Cowboy comeback, coupled with a Cowboy field goal that shouldn't have been, when Hall of Famer Jackie Smith dropped a would-be touchdown pass right in the middle of the end zone, the Steelers notched the 35-31 victory, barely covering the spread and maintaining their dynasty. We've got a few little tidbits coming out of the top 10 as a whole. A few teams show up on this list more than once, but the San Francisco 49ers show up 3 different times, including both their matchups with the Bengals. And with the exception of the Raiders and Vikings at number 7 and Super Bowl 11, the NFC team checked out with the higher C-score every time. Considering how close some of these are, that's mighty impressive. Maybe one day we'll get a Super Bowl matchup as close or even closer as the Steelers and Cowboys in Super Bowl 13, but 45 Super Bowls have been played since then, and only the Chiefs and 49ers have gotten within a full point of it. Thank you so much for watching and making it as far as you did. Please be sure to give the video a like and share it with some friends. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and ding the bell for future notifications on all videos. Did any of these matchups surprise you? Was there another matchup you thought for sure would make it into the top 10? Sound off on that and anything else on your mind in the comments section below. In time, we will do this same video in reverse order, counting down the 10 most lopsided Super Bowl matchups of all time. Until next time, thank you again for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day.